My name is Christine King. I am a trainer in Nonviolent Communication in Santa Cruz. About 10 years ago, I was postering for a flyer for Marshall, an event for Marshall in Santa Cruz. And after the event was over, I went to remove the flyer, and someone had written on one of the flyers, "He's the real deal." And I just love that, you know. And I'm sorry that the real deal couldn't be here tonight. Unfortunately, his health does not allow him to travel or to teach anymore. But luckily, there's a network of over 400 trainers in 6 of the 7 continents. So that's a good thing. We haven't heard yet from Antarctica. If they have a trainer, but I'm sure there's one, you know, in the wings waiting. And if Marshall were here, I'm sure he would tell you that he's very happy and delighted to accept this award and to acknowledge the Worldwide Forgiveness Alliance for creating and bestowing the Champion of Forgiveness Award. He might have guessed the needs of the Alliance as bringing attention to the healing power and the beauty of forgiveness for inspiration, celebration, and contribution to a more peaceful world. And since I am here on Marshall's behalf, I can tell you that I'm touched and I'm thrilled that you have decided to bestow this honor on Marshall. This award acknowledges not only the work that he has done to create a more compassionate world, but also a more forgiving world. What I had planned, it might be just a little bit redundant and overlap with Lori because we didn't compare notes. So if it is, I hope you will forgive me. But I'll be brief. Oh, yeah. So at an early age, Marshall moved to Detroit, and he was introduced to his class the very first day of school, and then immediately after school, he was beaten up as a response to his name, Rosenberg. And that experience was the genesis of his lifelong exploration of what it is that seems to make people violent, particularly when he knew that people, including his grandmother and his uncle, could remain compassionate even under the most horrific circumstances. And I know that you were all given a copy of his book, Nonviolent Communication. I really hope you get a chance to read it. It's an easy read. I did it in one evening. So I really encourage you to read it, and it really radically has changed a lot of people's lives. I first met Marshall Rosenberg in the late 90s, and he traveled constantly, as Lori mentioned. And if you would ask him where he lived, he would respond, American Airlines. Actually, his home was in Switzerland, which no doubt made it easier for him to travel to the States, to Europe, to the Middle East, and Africa, and all the places that Lori mentioned. And he devoted a lot of time and energy working with Israelis and the Palestinians. And if he were up for the travel, I have no doubt that he would be in the Middle East right now, because, my goodness, they could sure use his help. And he also worked in hotspots like Rwanda, Nigeria, Liberia, where civil wars between ethnic groups and genocide ravaged the country, like Lori said in the video you just saw. And he was able to help each side of the conflict understand the motivations of the other side to really connect with the compassionate nature. I have a quote for you from Dr. Mary Mugadonga. This was written in 1998. She is from Rwanda. This is what she said. I belong to both of the Rwandese ethnic groups by blood and by marriage, which made me lost as to which position I was to take in the Civil War. I am a Tutsi. I was married to a Hutu, and then a victim of both sides. Hutu killing my family in the genocide, and then Tutsi killing my husband, who had dedicated his life to nonviolent communication. It is by understanding the feelings and the needs of each side that I have seen the conflict differently and have been able to experience real healing. My view of healing, reconciliation, and conflict in Rwanda is through recognizing the two parties as both having feelings and having needs, which have been suppressed, with only judgments and labels coming out, leading to the massacres. In 1995, I role-played with friends, playing two Rwandan ethnic groups in conflict, and I came to understand from both of their sides. And this experience filled me with energy and compassion, and I was ready to say, I forgive you. End of quote. So in the video, you heard Marshall respond to the interviewer who asked him about being naive. He said, I see a different world. And that world is a world where compassion and kindness replace competition and cruelty. And whenever I heard Marshall speak about forgiveness, he would always mention self-forgiveness. And he also talked about mourning. For without self-forgiveness, there is no forgiveness. And while forgiveness cannot change the past, as was mentioned earlier, it can make for a much bigger and brighter future for all of us. And if we can teach ourselves to mourn, and not always the great big things, but sometimes just inconsequential, trivial things, we can also learn to let go and to move on. And for it is only in the present moment that we truly live. When I first heard Marshall speak, it was as if everything I believed in had coalesced, and soon after hearing him, I made the decision myself to become a certified trainer. And I thought if I learned this language of compassion, that everybody around me would change and be different. Okay, the joke was on me, because I learned that was really only one person that we can ever really change. This work has opened doors for me that I never imagined, has brought healing and forgiveness to my own family, and has helped me see that this other world is possible. So I stand here tonight because 15 years ago, Marshall Rosenberg inspired me to quit my job and devote the rest of my life to spreading more compassion, love, and forgiveness. And though Marshall cannot be here in person, I believe he's here in spirit. And in the spirit of his work, I accept this award on behalf of Marshall Rosenberg and all of you who spread forgiveness and compassion in the world. Thank you so much. I'll be sending this to Marshall right away, so he's very good.
You live in this area and you'd like to experience some of what Christina and I so enjoyed in our lives, come on August 25th to the Sunrise Center in Corte Madera.